Okay. Thank you, everyone. Welcome, everyone, to one of our Collaberex monthly workshops. And today's workshop, the topic is showing up as you, being authentic, showing up as you in your business. Our presenter today is Athole Forbes, who is a LinkedIn content creator, collaborator, and coach. So, in the interest of transparency, I just have to let you know, I have been working with Athole for almost 6 months now.
It was the beginning of the
Almost there.
year. Yeah.
So we know each other really well. So I must say that in my working with her and getting to know her and all of our conversations, there is not a more perfect person that I could think of to be giving this talk. She shows up as herself each and every moment, each and every day, and she's unbelievably masterful at drawing that out of her clients and encouraging them to show up as themselves. She is always authentic, honest, sincere, caring, empathetic, and I hope that's herself. I think that's herself. Yes. Yes. Or else
I
she's
hope
a
so.
really good at faking it. But she always presents as she truly is, not as as others expect her to be. And that is where she's always coming from in everything she does. So I'm really thrilled that I twisted her arm to do this workshop and to teach us and give us some pointers. Athole, it's all yours.
Thank you very much. How can I follow that? What a glowing start for me. I don't know if I'll be able to live up to that start. Hi everyone. My name is Athole Forbes, and as you may have picked up, I do not have an American accent. I am Scottish. And I actually am from a tiny little place near Aberdeen in the northeast of Scotland called near Inverurie, and I'm a farmer's wife. And I've got two little boys. And there are four businesses in my house. This is just one of the businesses. This is my own one. Um, and that's some random things about me that are nothing to do with work, but I think they're all important for all of us to share so we get to know each other a bit. So you might think showing up as you, that sounds really easy. And what I have experienced through my work is people find it really hard. And the reason that they find it hard, there are lots of reasons, but they think they should be something else. They think they should be professional. They feel like they need to be like somebody else. And actually, a lot of it is just conditioning. And it's conditioning we don't even realize that we have. So I'm no different to you. Showing up for me was difficult to start off. I'm not going to lie. My first LinkedIn post, I was looking at the screen going, being scared to press that post button. When I went to go and stand up and speak in front of people, I was terrified and I'd practiced it within an inch of my life. So I don't find it easy. But what I found is it's like a muscle. The more you do it, the easier it gets. And being somebody else is exhausting. It's much easier when you're just really, really yourself. And a couple of things that cause you not to be yourself is fear of rejection. Um, but as you know, running your own business, we get rejected all the time. And, once you've got over that rejection thing, once it's happened 20, 30 times, you're used to being rejected and it's not as big a thing. So the more you do it, the better it is. Also, we're worried about being judged. And the thing about being judged is if you're not showing up, you need to own the narrative. So people will judge you whether you say something. They'll judge you if you say nothing. They'll judge you if you turn up and don't say anything. They'll judge you if you turn up and do say something. So actually, judgment, it's much better if you own that by actually doing something that somebody can form an opinion on you about. And it's like anything that you do, the more you do it, the easier it gets. And then when you're consistent, and show up all the time, that then builds trust, and that trust is what brings you your clients. And the reason that I'm so passionate about this work is I think for all of us, being you is the superpower that you have, because nobody else is like you. Nobody will do things the way that you do. But if you're not letting that be seen, then how can people be attracted to you? So I'm going to tell you a little story about a client of mine who was an estate agent. And every time I spoke to him to go and write his content, he came at me with the wall of stuff that he did. And I sat there going, Mark, this is all very well that you tell me all the stuff that you do, but nobody's interested in this when you write it. And I can only write what you give me. And if you're giving me all of this, this is what I have to write. So eventually the second month, I said the same thing. I said, please, can you let me do one personal post about your family? Because I think you've got an interesting background. He posted that one post. It outranked by 4 times everything else that I'd written up until that point. And at that point, he went, okay, now I see what you're saying. But I had to fight him to get him to do it. So, and sometimes it just takes a little bit of time with people before they're like, oh, okay, it's actually better if I write a bit more personally, because then people connect with it. So I will now share my slides. I've just missed doing the first one, but it's nothing on it. Anyway, right, this is what we're going to do today. So I am going to go and do a bit of an introduction about me and how I've ended up doing this work. Understanding why. Why is it important to show up as yourself? What does it mean? Then I'll give you my coaching model, which is really simple. And I would say about the coaching model, it's basically just a little self-reflection tool that you can use on yourself. I'll speak a little bit about feedback and why it's important. And I know when you even use that word feedback, it puts the fear of God in people half the time. They're terrified of it, but I'll explain to you why that is. I'll also speak about key messages and how you do them. A little bit about listening to yourself, and then I'll do the close and I'll leave it open for any questions that you've got. So as I'm speaking, feel free to take down any questions that you've got and we'll get them at the end. So sorry about the colour of that slide. I'm sure it's hurting your eyeballs because it's really pink. But as I said at the beginning, my name is Athole Forbes. My business is AF Insights. AF is me, and Insights is what you get if you bring me in. How I started the business was I was a performance coach for a corporate, and I actually worked for BP. And what happened, I got floated into teams that weren't performing, which made me really popular, as you can well imagine, because if I was coming to work in your team, you weren't performing. So that made people absolutely love me, not. So they wouldn't invite me to meetings. I wouldn't get any of the data that I needed to do the work. It was just really difficult. But what I found when I was going into each team, first of all, I took it really personally, but then I realized it was a pattern that happened every team that I went into. And what I did when I was doing my scheduling, I scheduled in a bit at the beginning called the moan zone. And depending on how anti-Athole they were, the moan zone was shorter or longer. But that moan zone was so critical because in that moan zone, they would offload what was bothering them to me. And what I would do is I would take all of that information and look for themes across the team of common things that they were struggling with, whether it was time, whether it was process, whether what they were doing wasn't working for them. And I would collate that data. And then after they'd moaned about everything that they had and why my system was rubbish and it wouldn't work where they were and they do it differently here and all of that kind of stuff, then from that, I had some quick wins that I could implement in the teams. And when I put those quick wins in, they then seen that what we were doing would make a difference. And then instead of them fighting me to let me in, they were like, come in, Athole, what do you think about this? I've just run this report. Can you have a look at it? How could we do this a bit better? And it went all from push, push, push to pull, 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 pulling me in. But the skill that I gained from doing that was I got really good at making strong relationships with people quickly. So they trusted me, they felt safe, they told me stuff. And that's always stood me in really good stead in my business, because that connection is vital. It's the lifeblood of any business. So I started my own business coaching, but I got bored of that quite quickly. And then I stood back and I said, right, what do I like doing and where can I add value? So I love people. I like creating ideas. I love collaborating. And then I liked writing. So I decided to take all those four things and put them all together. And I was pretty good in LinkedIn as well. So I put them all together and I started creating content for LinkedIn. But for me, LinkedIn is just the tool. It's just the technical part of it. And that's the bit that scares people the most, actually, just the technical part of LinkedIn. The important part is you. If you don't know what you're all about, what you've got to give, where you're coming from, why what you're doing is important to you, if you don't understand any of that stuff about yourself, when you go to try and communicate on LinkedIn, speak, pitch, or whatever it is that you do, you'll be wobbly. So that's why it's worth taking a step back and being really clear about what it is that you're doing. And you use that messaging in so many different spheres. So why is it important? Why is it important to show up as yourself? So with all of us, there is an origin story. There is a core, there is a why, there is a reason that we started doing what we're doing. And what I see quite often with people is we start our business and go, yay, this is amazing. We're going to be doing something we love and we're going to be helping loads of people. And away we go, we start building. And then what happens is we get sucked into sales, marketing, accounts, supply chain, all of that other stuff that we have to do in our business. And then what happens is the reason that we started the business, we have moved so far away from it. And then we start hating it because we're not doing the thing that we started it for and the reason that we loved it. So it's really important to have that, to make sure that you're not moving too far away from that. And with that origin story, it's worth just taking a bit of time to think about it and craft it, because when you share that with other people, that's what they'll connect with. And nobody really cares what you do. They care about you and why you're doing it. They care about the reasons behind why you started doing it. They care about you. So, like, most of my work, what I found is I get opportunities to do some fabulous things. And it's often I get asked to do things that I don't necessarily advertise or do, like this, for example. This wasn't something that I would offer, but Jonathan asked me to do it and I said, okay. So by being myself, that allowed that opportunities to come in to do different things. So I'm going to speak about another client of mine called Rosie. And Rosie is a therapist and she works mostly with men and has done most of her life. And some, people that have been in prison and things like that. And what she has done is she's created a course called the Emotional Muscle, which is about men that have got disconnected from themselves. And societally, we all know men that that's happened to. So Rosie had asked me to help her with a pitch. So I was like, yeah, okay. And she came back and she had her pitch structure. And I said, just write it and we'll go through it and make it better. So when I got her pitch structure back and what she'd written, when it got to the why section, she'd written what. So I think that's a common mistake that people make. They write what they do instead of why they're doing it. So I said to her, Rosie, you've written why, you've written what you do, but not why you do it. And I said, so why do you do it? And she said, oh, because I work mostly with men. And I said, but there must have been a reason why you ended up working with men. And she said, well, I've got 4 brothers and I'm the only girl. And I said, that's probably something to do with it. And then she said, I had to teach my dad to hug me. And I was like, what's that? And she said, my dad wouldn't even walk me down the aisle on my wedding day because he was embarrassed in case he would get emotional in front of other people. And I said, that's it. That's what you need to tell people, because we all know men in our lives that are like that have been conditioned not be in touch with their emotions at all, and they really, really struggle. And so then I encouraged Rosie to use that when she was pitching. So that's why it's important to understand that stuff. And it's the rocket fuel for you and your business. And what I would say about it is we all have a little beacon. And our little beacon sits in here. We know what it likes, what it doesn't like, what is valuable to it, why it's doing the things that it's doing. So our little beacon stays in here. When you start your business, you have to show the beacon. And what I see is people going like this, meh, with their beacon, because they go, oh, I need to post 500 times a week, and I need to be the same as somebody else, and I need to make all these videos, and I need to be professional. I need to, and they start like trying to be the same as other people. But what happens on the outside is anybody looking at that beacon goes, what is that? They don't understand what it's there for, why it does what it does. They just look at it with confusion. And my job is to get people to own that beacon and take that beacon and put it right up in the sky. So they really know themselves and they put it up so everybody can see it. And the important thing about doing that is, Kevin's here, marketing. One of the massive things about marketing that I didn't realize was it's not only to attract the people you want, it's to repel the people you don't want as well. But you need both. And not everybody is for you. But if you're trying to cater to everyone, you will cater to no one. So you're better to own it. And then you will attract the right people, but you'll repel the people that are not for you. And the most important thing about repelling those people is you need to get rid of the tire kickers. Like we've all had them, them that come, they've got no intention to pay, they hoover up your time, and what I found is when I wasn't really owning my own stuff and being truthful and saying this is what I want and this is what I don't want, I attracted more of those tire kickers, and they just took away heaps of my precious resource, which was my time. That is my resource, is my time. And it's the same for all of you. And it's a resource you cannot replace. Once it's gone, it's gone. So it's really important that you kind of eliminate that kind of waste out of your business. Okay, this is my coaching model questions. Now, this is super, super simple. It's only 3 questions. And if you're wanting to show up as yourself, I would advise that you ask yourself these questions in the right way. So I'm going to give you a bit of context around how you use these questions. So when I coach people, I use this model all the time just because it was so easy for people to understand. And the thing about doing a bit of self-reflection and understanding yourself is when you do understand yourself, when you don't understand yourself, you're a bit like a rudderless boat. You're kind of going all over the place. You're not going in any one direction. It's, and that's why being self-aware is such a powerful tool for all of us. And anyway, I'll get on to the questions for this. So the first question is, what am I good at? Now, most of us have an inkling what that is. So we'll have done a workshop and it's gone really well. We'll have done a speaking gig, it's gone really well. We've put in a tender or a proposal and it was successful. Or, that we'll have an inclination inside. We all kind of know what we're good at. The thing that really helps with that, if you're not sure, is to do a bit of feedback work. And I'm going to go on to that in the next slide. The value of doing feedback work is sometimes people can see things in you that you don't see in yourself. So when I started my business journey, I got asked to speak over and over again, and I kept saying no. But I was getting feedback from other people that this might be something that might be quite good for me to do. And eventually I kind of got forced into doing it, and it was really successful for me. And that was, it was really important, but that feedback had been there the whole time. I just didn't listen to it. So the people around me could see that that was something that I might be good at. So that's the power of doing feedback work. If you go to get feedback from somebody. They might identify things you don't realize, but also it allows you to speak more confidently about what you're good at and what you're not good at, because you've had it from more than one source. So that is why, if you don't know what I'm good at, get some people that you really care about and trust that will give you honest feedback, because it'll help you get that list really tight. Okay. The next one is, where do I add value? So probably the best way to explain this one is to give you an example. So say you were an amazing hairdresser and somebody put you in a garage, you'd be rubbish because that's not your skill set. You're in the wrong place. So that's where do I add value? So look at the skill set that you've got and where can you put it to optimize it. So it's the same with social media. When people come to me and I'll speak to them about where their clients hang out on social media, is it Twitter? Is it Facebook? Is it LinkedIn? And they'll come back and say, oh, my clients are on Facebook. And I'm like, well, don't waste your money coming to me, because get really good at doing Facebook, because that's where your clients hang out. So that for them, creating content on LinkedIn, unless they're wanting to change their market, I just say no. And it's not a good enough reason to be doing it because other people are doing it, which I get quite a lot as well. And I say no to that as well. So if we go back to the hairdresser, so where do I add value and what do I want are linked together. So if you go to the hairdresser, where do you want to work? And she says, oh, I would like to travel. Well, then she could maybe go on a cruise ship, because one of the things that she wants is to travel. So her adding value would be to put her somewhere where she gets to travel. But she maybe says she doesn't want to travel, so then the cruise ship's not a good idea. But she says she maybe wants to earn a lot of money, so maybe you could put her in a really nice salon, or you could put her with a celebrity stylist. So where do I add value is linked to what I want. What do you want? They go together, and the combination of both of those things will make sure that you put your wonderful skill set in the right place. And what I say to people is, this is like the foundation to your house. If you know what you're good at, and you know where you add value, and you know what you want to do, it allows you to filter your business decisions. For example, this workshop. Am I good at doing workshops? Yeah. Would it add any value? Yes, I think it would. It would add value to the people that are coming to the workshop. And I haven't done a workshop for a little while, so it would get me practice. Do I actually want to do it? Yes. There's your answer. So, but I get other things that I'm asked to do. Am I good at it? No. Would I add any value? No. Do I actually want to do it? No. So there you go. There's your answer. So it really helps to run it through this filter when you're making decisions about things to make sure that you're going in the right direction. A word of warning about this. So because I'm a coach, they quite often speak about goals. And I want to share with you a mistake I made about goals. Goals are important. We need to know what they are so we can work towards them. But the biggest mistake that I've made with goals for myself is not doing that, making sure that the goal is still appropriate. So I would go as a person, right, I'm going to this purple bottle. So I get my head down and work like mad, get to the purple bottle, and then go, I hate it here. I don't like the people that I'm working with. The work's rubbish. I'm not getting paid enough. And the reason that happened was because I didn't listen to any of the things as I was going along my path that was telling me I was going in the wrong direction. And then what happened was I had a bit of a analysis paralysis after that. I would get so scared at the beginning that I was going to take a step to go in the wrong direction and not listen enough to myself, because I knew that was a failing that I had, that then I would get stuck at the beginning. So that's a whole big journey of learning that I've gone through for myself. And what I found really helps is, don't try and make 100 right moves or think about the bigger picture. Just make one right move and just focus on getting that one step next right, because life happens and stuff changes. So That's what I think is useful about using my coaching model and the word of warning. Right, I'll speak about feedback now. So I'm no different to anyone else. Feedback used to scare me to death. I would never ask for it because I was frightened that people would tell me I was rubbish. And I think we all go through that. But I think what really helps is when you understand that your brain is supposed to react more to negative stimuli than positive stimuli. And it does that to keep you safe. But sometimes it's a bit overzealous and it tries to keep you safe from things that you don't need to be protected from. And the example that I give is a bear in the woods. So you know that there's this big bush in the woods and it's got the best fruit and it would sustain you all of the winter. But one time when you went there, there was a bear. So in your brain, you go, never going to that bush again, I might get eaten. And that's the same with feedback. You'll get 9 good things telling you how awesome you are, but you'll focus in on that one thing that somebody said that you were rubbish at. And actually, it's far more productive to take your energy and put it into things you're already good at than try and fix things that you know that you're not so good at. It's not a productive use of your time. So the thing about feedback is the more you do it, the easier it gets. So, and you get used to, they're going to say, and sometimes the things that they say can be fixed. If there's something that they haven't liked that you've done or it hasn't worked well, there's an opportunity to fix it there. But if you don't know, you can't fix it. So feedback is really useful and I encourage people to use it. The other thing that I would say about feedback is just do it like email. So you get an email in, and if it's something you need to do, you go and action it, right? It's the same with feedback. You get a bit of feedback in, and usually, if you get a bit of feedback and you go like this, oh, that's usually because the person's giving you a bit of feedback that you know is right. So you action it. Or you can get a bit of feedback in that's not appropriate for that moment in time, but you might need it in the future. So you keep it for later. And I know I've had feedback on things that I've got the right information, but just not at the right time for me. But I've kept it and gone back to it later. And I'm like, now I understand what they were saying when they said that. It's just taken me a little bit of time to get round to it. The other thing is, you can also get feedback that has absolutely nothing to do with you, and it is about you as a human being. And I think this is the delete one, that we don't get told enough that we need to use. You just say thank you, but in your head you go, I'm never going to change that. That's part of who I am as a human being. And I actually like that bit about myself. You do not have to take every bit of feedback that you get. And I was one of the worst for this, twisting myself into knots, trying to make myself fit, when actually I would have been a lot better at just not accepting a bit of the feedback that I was given and went, okay, that's fine, but it's not appropriate for me. And I'm going to give you an example of that now. So I had been called aggressive before in my corporate career. And I had taken that aggressive feedback and internalized it, that I was aggressive. So I'd gone away to get some coaching done on myself, because you wouldn't go to a coach who doesn't go to coaches, right? You wouldn't go to a doctor who doesn't go to doctors. Coaches need to be coached too. And I was getting coached, and I'd said about me being aggressive. And the coach had said, really? And I said, yeah, it's been said a few times that I'm aggressive. And she said, Athole, I don't find you aggressive at all. And I was like, well, I've been told it more than once. She's like, let's look at that aggressive feedback. Who gave you that aggressive feedback? And I sat and I looked at it, and the aggressive feedback had come from the same demographic of people. And then I thought, oh, that's strange. It's all come from the same people. She said, I would like you to do some homework on that aggressive feedback. So I took that aggressive homework, and I took it. It was older men that had given me that feedback. So I took it to women and younger men to see if they thought that I was aggressive, and they didn't. So then I realized it was to do with the demographic. And then she asked me, would that demographic necessarily be your customers? And I was like, no. So there we go, gone. That aggressive feedback that I'd internalized thinking that I wasn't appropriate. And that's the power of doing some of that self-awareness work. It can get rid of a lot of things that you're carrying about that are not actually useful for you. Okay, so I'm going to now speak about key messages. So every time I start with a client, it kind of goes like this. What are your key messages? What key messages, Athole? I have no idea what you're talking about. And that happens most clients. Most of them don't have a clue what I'm talking about. And I have to take them through that so they understand. So the point of key messages is just keeping the train on the track. So if you know what you're all about, it means then when you go to do anything, you can be clear and it's consistent, and that promotes trust with people. Now, I would say it comes from a Bananarama track. Does anybody even know who Bananarama is here? If you don't, they're a British 80s girl band, and they sang a song which was, it ain't what you do, it's the way that you do it. But I googled it, and Ella Fitzgerald did it before that. So if you don't know who Bananarama is, you know Ella Fitzgerald did it. But the point about it isn't what you do, it's the way that you deliver it is the reason that your customers will come to you, and that will be dissociated from whatever it is you're selling, whether it is a laptop, a phone, your service, whatever that is. It's the way that you deliver your service is the thing that attracts the customers to you. So you need to know what it is that you do that's special and different that attracts those customers in. So what I do is, you'll see here, got a little post-it that I stick on my laptop to remind me what my key messages are. So it means whenever I write anything or do anything, I check that it is going through my key messages. And pretty much it is, because my key messages are who I am as a person. So just to give you an idea to try and work out what your key messages are for you, my ones are be seen. Number 2 is it's okay to be you and to be real. The third one is be kind to yourself and others. And yourself is first, because you can't be kind to other people if you're not kind to yourself. And we've all been conditioned to be incredibly mean to ourselves. I don't know how many people I have conversations with that are so mean to themselves, and they would never speak to a friend or a partner or somebody they cared about like that. So being kind, you need to start with yourself first. And number 4 is I genuinely want anyone I work with to do well. So if they're not happy or something's not working, please come and speak to me about it and we'll work it out together. Give me an opportunity to fix it for you, because I want you to get as much value as you can out of me. So those are my key messages. And what I would say to you, if you're trying to work out what yours are, just stand back and ask yourself, how do I deliver my service so it's of value to people? So, and you'll have had it fed back to you. People will have said, oh, your level of care is really great. You're really encouraging. I love that you're honest. You know, you'll have had that feedback. So that'll give you an indication of what it is about you as a person that they love when they come to you. And then you just make sure that when you're communicating, you're using that. So step back, ask the question, check, and be consistent. That's kind of the 3 things that I would say when you're using your key messages. Okay, listening to yourself. Now, this is a biggie, because a lot of us are conditioned and we don't even realize that we've been conditioned until you stand back and go, actually, do I really believe that? You know, and then you realize that it's just some conditioning nonsense that you've been given when you were a child that you've carried into your adulthood. And the ones that particularly cause us a problem are about being nice and being polite and being good. And a lot of that has come from childhood. And the problem with nice, polite, and good is they can be opposed to being honest. And what I kind of say to people is truthful is kind, untruthful is not kind. And You know, that's why there's such a surge of ghosting nowadays with people, because it's become, we've got a whole heap of people that are unable to have difficult conversations with people. And do you think it hurts any less when somebody ghosts you, or somebody actually says, hey, that isn't working for me, and gives you an opportunity to fix it? I know what works for me. And I think it works for most people too. Like, I see over and over in LinkedIn, people complaining about, you know, customers ghosting them and stuff like that. And you can have an honest conversation with somebody without hurting their feelings. You can actually be giving them something really valuable that they just don't realize is not working. So it's so important to listen to yourself. And if you think something isn't right, you need to say. And sometimes there is no logical reason for that not being right. It's just a gut feeling. Now, in our businesses, I can guarantee all of you have had pain in the bum customers. I know I have. I know you will have as well. But when you look back at those pain in the bum customers, there's usually been red flags there that have told you that this is not a good person for you, right? And if you're super honest with yourself, you let those red flags go. Now, actually catching those red flags and acting on them is hard to start with, but then you start getting some wins from it. So I'm going to tell you a little story about a customer that I had a red flag with, and how it's worked out really well for me. So I have a friend called Jack who runs a videography company in Manchester. And he'd had a business coach. He ended up splitting up his business with his partner. So he went to this business coach for months. And then he messaged me saying, I'm really struggling, Athole, can you help me? And I prepped him, and he had one conversation with that business partner, and he left the business after months of trying to sort it out. And it was only a half an hour conversation. So then Jack came back to me maybe about 6 months later and said, oh, I need to get my LinkedIn stuff sorted out. And I said, okay. He said, I can't do it, so I'm going to give you one of my team. I'm like, okay. So I got somebody in his team. She was really good. And I thought, perfect, this is somebody that will make great content. And, you know, when you've got the right person, the energy's right, you're creating loads of stuff, you come out of it pumped, you're excited for the client. And I had that with her. Then at the last minute, he switched it to somebody else. So I had the idea session with this person. And during the session, I ended up having to show him how to use LinkedIn, which meant that we weren't really creating content. And I just came off the call going, that didn't feel very good for me. I don't feel like I've delivered what they actually brought me in to do. So I thought about it, and it bugged me till the next. What I normally do is go, that bugged me, and then I hold it for a bit. And if I'm still feeling the next day that it's bugging me, then I'll say something. So the next day I messaged him and I said, hey, Jack, can we have a chat? And he's like, yeah. So I said, I'm not going to be doing any more idea sessions for you. And he said, why? I said, because the guy that you gave me wasn't the right guy to create content with. And he said, why? I said, because he doesn't technically know how to use LinkedIn. And I felt like there wasn't enough ideas generated. The energy wasn't right in the session. And you've got no resource in place to go and write the stuff and then actually put it on LinkedIn. So I just think it would be a big waste of your money. So I'm just telling you now that I've contracted you for 3, but I'm going to let you out after 1. And he said, Athole, you are the first person in my business that has refused to do work for me. And I said, well, I just didn't feel it was right or of value to you. And he said, so what do you think I should do? And I said, either give me the person you had initially, or just let me write your stuff for you. And that's what ended up happening. And he won't go to anyone else because of that. So see how saying no can actually help you, having that honest conversation, and it shows the client that you've got integrity and you really do have their best interests at heart. So, but it's hard. It's hard having those conversations, but the more you do it, the better it gets. Another story that I'm going to tell you about listening was when I went to do my first pitch. So I was just in the process of leaving my corporate job. I'd never pitched before. I had no idea what I was doing. So I just knocked some slides together and I went away and I did it. And at the end of it, luckily for me, there was I'd asked for feedback and nobody gave me any, which is kind of a bit worrying in itself. When nobody's giving you any feedback, you do start to panic and think, have I just made a total mess of that? But luckily for me, I had a really nice lady came up to me at the end. And she gave me 4 bits of advice that I use now all the time. I was so glad I got this at the beginning of my business journey. So the first thing she said was, too much words in your slide. And I just went, oh, because I knew exactly what she was saying was right. The next thing she said is, where is it you work? And I said, oh yeah, I work at BP. She said, I did too. Don't worry, it'll take you a year. You will get over it. And I was like, okay. And then the next thing she said was, you've got a great service, but I don't really care. And I was like, ouch. She said, I wanted to know something about you and you didn't let anything away about yourself, nothing. And then when I stood back from it and she said, oh yeah, you've been like BP-ified. And when I stood back, I thought to myself, of course I have. I've worked there for 12 years. I've been conditioned by their way of doing it, which is all about the work. And I've taken every bit of myself out of it. And from that, every time I ever do anything now, I always put a good dose of me in. And what I find is the more me I am, the better it is, because I attract the people that like what I'm about. And that's what it's all about. And so listening to yourself is really important. Where will you use these skills? So you'll use them for all of the things that I've got here. But standing back and making sure that you really understand yourself makes sure that you put yourself in the right place. And what I say to people is it's like having a seed. So all seeds are different. You get geranium ones, potato ones, begonia ones, and every seed needs different conditions to grow. But if you don't know what your seed is, how can you put it in the right place and care for it and water it and make it grow? Because I honestly do believe that we're here to more than just survive. We're here to thrive. So when you understand what your seed is, then you know where to put it to make it grow the best. Right, I'm going to speak quickly about LinkedIn. Oh, gone too far. LinkedIn. So for me, LinkedIn is just the tool, but there are some things that stop people from using LinkedIn. So what I would say about LinkedIn is it's the biggest networking opportunity that you'll ever have. So just treat it like a networking event. You wouldn't go to a networking event with a megaphone and walk up to somebody and shout, buy my stuff in their ear. They would think that you were weird and avoid you. And LinkedIn is no different. You also wouldn't go to a networking event and stand in the corner and watch what everybody's doing and not saying anything, because then again, people would think that you were weird and avoid you. So all I say to people is just use LinkedIn exactly the same as what you would do in a real event. And the purpose of LinkedIn is social media. It's for sparking conversations and creating connection. So if you're not doing anything to do that, it won't work. So a good tip that I give to people is try and put an open question at the end of your posts. It's like having a party with the door shut. If you don't put that question in, you're not opening the door to let people into the party. So you have to give people the chance to engage with you. If you're writing something that they can't engage on, that's a waste of your time and effort. And then you have to let people get to know you a little bit. And the more they know you, the more they'll like you, the more they'll trust you, and then they'll buy from you. And the other thing about it, like I said earlier on, is because people have got to know me, I get a chance to do loads of different things. And it's because they know me as a person. And I'm going to speak about connect and pitch, which I tell people don't do. You wouldn't go into a bar and meet somebody and go, hey, do you want to get married? It's, and it's exactly the same with connect and pitch. So I always advise people, there's a few steps towards a sale, and it's a marathon, not a sprint, and you need to go through each of those steps, and that takes time for that relationship to build. So that's something to think about. The common blockers I say are ideas. So that's just a habit. Get into the practice of catching your ideas, and you'll find they always come at stupid times when you can't catch them, like when you're in the shower or when you're driving somewhere. And then you're like, oh God, what was that idea that I was going to do for a post? So just get into the habit of catching them. And you can do that through WhatsApp. I know people do WhatsApp groups with themselves. Some use notebooks, some use Trello. I use the notes in my phone. There's no right or wrong way. There's just the right way for you. The other things is time, but like anything, what you put in, you get out. So if you don't put any time and effort into your LinkedIn, it won't be good. It takes time and effort for it to be good. Confidence, that just takes time as well. The more you post, the easier it gets. And it just, if you keep doing it, you get more confident. And when you're getting a bit of engagement and things back, that also helps your confidence that you're on the right track. Trust. All we need to build trust is conversation and time. So whether you like it or not, posting and writing on comments on LinkedIn is a form of communication. It's a form of conversation with people. And if people have been connected to you for a while and see that you're being consistent, that then builds trust for you. Selling, LinkedIn's not a selling platform. And this is the biggest mistake that I see people using LinkedIn as a selling platform. And it doesn't help you with the algorithm because it tags it as spam, which means that it doesn't get shown to anyone. And if it doesn't get tagged as spam, it'll get shown to a really small group. And if it gets no engagement, your post dies. If it manages to get through the small group and they have engaged with it, then the post will live and die on the amount of engagement that it gets from it. So actually, selling stuff is just marked as spam, and it's a waste of your time and effort on LinkedIn. So thanks for your time today. I'm now open for questions. I'm a LinkedIn ghostwriter, so I save you time by writing posts that get you noticed by the people you seek. And from today, you'll see that one of my core values is you need to show up as you. And I will kick and cuddle when I'm trying to get people to do that, because I think you need a bit of both. But I'll hand it over to you. And if anybody's got any questions, feel free to jump in.
Okay. Thank you so much, Athole. Really, that was wonderful. That was great. If anyone has any questions, you could either literally raise your hand or use the reaction. And one thing that I do encourage everyone to do is I'll pass along everyone who's here to Athole. She could follow up, but look her up on LinkedIn and ring her bell so you get notified of her posts as a great example of how to show up as yourself and the kinds of things that she puts up. I mean, I've never seen anyone do more videos that are, I don't know, it seems like it's just a spur of the moment thing. Oh, I'll do a video. And it's
Is
no rehearsal, nothing, being herself, not caring for perfection, just completely out there. So it's
And the thing that I would say about the videos is, guys, right? I've recorded myself a million times. So I'm that weird Scottish lady with the funny accent that's got the hand gestures and makes the weird facials. I've got over it. Like, my biggest advice for videos for you is just get over yourself, because that is what you look and sound like.
yes.
And what I would say about videos is I've gone through the pain of recording them a million times and then got to the 10th take and ended up using take one. So, like, you'll go through this too. You'll find one will be good, and then you'll be like, oh God, I made a little mistake. And then you'll try and fix it. And then by the time you get to 10, you're just making a total pig's ear of it, and you'll go back to the first one. So we're all the same, and it's a journey that you'll probably all go on with videos.
So Dan, I see you have a question. Go ahead.
Great. Thanks, Jonathan. Thanks, Ethel. Excellent presentation. Very, very helpful. One of the things I've always kind of struggled with LinkedIn is how to establish like a meaningful goal, one that kind of traces back to some sort of actual objective. I could certainly post LinkedIn posts that would really appeal to the Collaberex group or to people who are in my field, but that wouldn't necessarily I mean, I could just try to establish a great LinkedIn presence, but does that really ever trace back to real leads for
Yeah, but
for
that's because you're using LinkedIn as
clients?
that's because you're using LinkedIn as a selling platform. And
Well,
it's not a
well,
selling platform. It's social media. So it's to give you exposure. So when you go to a networking event, do you have specific goals for that networking event about the amount of leads that you come out with when you go to a networking event?
so if I were going to a networking event that had nobody there that could become a lead ever, then I would probably not go back to that networking event.
But LinkedIn will have leads there. You will have people that are potential clients. So the thing is, how are you identifying them?
So that's my question. How do you what should the goal be? If the goal were to get a lot of positive reactions from Collaberex members, that would be pretty easy to do. But would it
Mhm.
actually ever lead to? I mean, ultimately, this all has to lead to some kind of improvement in the bottom line. So I have to wonder how that goal gets established. What is the thing that a person is trying in an era of measurable results? What is it the thing that a person is trying to accomplish by improving their LinkedIn profile?
But you're being seen, right? You can have the best business in the world, but if nobody knows you're there, like, and in this day and age, when if somebody needs to social proof your business, so if they're going to buy anything from you, the first thing that they're going to do is go online, and usually LinkedIn is one of the first places that they're going to go and have a look. And if they're having a look in there and you've got nothing there, they're going to go, what's going on. So it's part of your social proofing is to have a decent LinkedIn profile and have some activity in there. If you're using it to pick up leads, what you're trying to do is build trust with your audience, because when you go to get a sale, you don't post once and get a sale. Doesn't work.
Absolutely,
Like, yeah, so
absolutely.
you need to be being consistent so people get to know who you are. And if you're just posting buy my stuff posts about what you're selling, that nobody cares. Nobody cares what you're selling. What they care about is you. They want some sort of connection to you. And that's why algorithmically, if you're doing selling posts, your posts won't do well. And you need to have, there's a thing called that I show people called the LinkedIn wheel, and it's the 4 things that you need for your LinkedIn to do well. So you need quality content that allows people to engage with you. So if you like when you go to a networking event and you start having a conversation with somebody, usually ask them questions or you speak about something that might be meaningful to them. And that's that conversational style needs to be happening in your LinkedIn. So it opens the door for people to allow them to engage with you. So, but quality content on its own will do nothing. The other thing that you need is engagement. So, but you won't get engagement unless you've got quality content.
Right.
The third thing that you need is connections. So if you've got no connections, and if you've got no connections, you won't get any engagement, and it doesn't matter whether you're putting quality content in. So you need to be working all 3 of these things. And the other thing that you need is consistency. Now, the turnaround for you getting any sales, I'm going to be honest, is about 3 months. So you need to be posting consistently for 3 months before you'll get any sniff of any, and it needs to be stuff that people can relate to and can engage on. And it's like when you do sales, when you have a sales process, there's not one step in your sales process. There's usually 3 or 4. So you qualify your lead, then you qualify your lead again, then you qualify your lead, and then you usually get a sale. So the LinkedIn needs to be tied to a sales process that you've got in the background that you've established for yourself and your business. Does that help?
Oh, thanks. Good to hear the input. Appreciate it.
Yes.
Well,
Ke-
can I help you any further? If you need any more further information from me, feel free to hit me up for a one-to-one.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Kevin, was there something, a comment that you want to make?
You just said so many wonderful things, and I know we're out of time. I would say, like, on top of everything you said, what is your best suggestion if the one KPI is increasing followers? What is the one thing you would focus on doing?
Engaging. So I would post, but I would engage on other people's stuff, because it's like anything. If you make an effort to speak to people and engage on their posts, then they will engage with you. And some of my best people are people who have interesting posts that I started engaging with. And now I've got a list of regular people that I support and that supports me, that are not in a pod. They're
Yeah.
just because we like each other. So,
Yep.
you know, like if you make an effort to speak to people and engage with people, they'll engage back with you. So,
Thank you.
yeah, I think that's the most important thing.
So I just want to say to everyone, Athole said she'd stay after to finish answering everyone's questions. So anyone that wants to hang out for a couple more minutes, you're welcome to. Athole will hang out with us until she has to like feed the sheep or pick up her kids. Right.
Pick up my kids. They're at football today. So,
Okay. Okay. So I have a question for you that is exactly on point to what Kevin was just saying in the comment that you made. Do you think it's as you said, LinkedIn is not a sales platform, it's a connection platform. So how do you want to connect with people? You want to behave the way you behave in person. So right away, if you meet someone at a networking event, an in-person event, you don't go up to a stranger and you say, oh, let's go have coffee. You start a conversation with them. And what you do is, in a good strategy, I think, is to, before you even ask someone to connect with you or to have that coffee or to do that thing, you engage with them. You comment on the things that they are putting out. I know when I put out things and I get people that I don't know that have engaged with my content, I instantly look them up. I'm curious
yeah.
about who they are. They're interested in something that I said. And I always, as you know, when you put something out and someone comments on something, you always reply to their comment.
And the other thing as well is you get some weird people as well. I'm not going to lie. I wrote a post about this a little while ago. People that look me up and look me up and look me up, and then I send them a connection request and they don't accept. But they know that I could see that they've been looking at my profile all the time. I'm like, what is that all about? Um, so you do, sometimes it doesn't work like that. But what I find is, like, if you look for people and they're writing cool content that you find it easy to engage with, just drop them a comment on something and they'll respond and then you connect. So that's warm. They're going to connect with you because you've already made an effort to look at what they've written and, respond to them in some way. So, like, comments are really valuable and useful. They're a really useful tool. And if you're not comfortable posting, I would say comment instead. Go and search, use the search function in LinkedIn, look for people, see what they're writing, comment on their stuff. That'll increase your connections and it'll be successful because you've already initiated with them.
Right. That's something that Athole, that's very key to that, commenting on people, is when you do your search, don't search their profiles, because sometimes their profiles are pretty, resume-like. You can go click, do the search, put the thing in the search and click search their posts. That's one of the choices. So it shows what they're talking about, not what they put outwardly to the world. So
Yeah, that's something useful that I share with people that they don't necessarily know, right? When people come to look for you on LinkedIn, they don't read your about section. That's the last thing they read. So people that spend ages writing their about section, don't waste your time, because what a LinkedIn user will go and do is they will find you, they will look at your title and see whether they dig that. So make sure you've got a good, interesting title that people might be interested in, might want to find out a bit more about you. They'll go straight to your posts. And if you're not posting, they're out because they've got no access to you. If you're not posting, they can't engage on anything that you've got and you're not being in there and you're not being consistent. If they go and look at your posts and they think, this person sounds cool, I'll now go and look at their about section and see whether they're right for me. And that's the route that people look. So if you're going to make put your effort somewhere, put it on posting rather than doing your about section, I would say.
Yeah, I think that's great. Great advice. So this was wonderful. Does anyone have any other questions, any comments? I encourage everyone really to connect with Athole, to follow her, her posts, to see, by ringing the bell, it notifies you of things that she's posting, and to use this as an example of really how to express who you are, because that's what people care about before they care about what you do.
Mm-hmm. And that ringing the bell is so important because it teaches your news feed. That's you teaching your news feed to bring you back stuff that you like. So by ringing the bells of people that you think are cool, it'll come up in your news feed. You won't have to look for what they're doing. It'll bring it back. So it's just a way. And the commenting as well on people stuff that you like, that also trains your news feed. So all of these little bits of action are training. It'll bring you back because it's going, right, okay, you like this sort of person, I'll maybe put some more people like that in your feed. So it all works in the background. So you have to train your news feed to bring back what you need.
Yeah. And in your post, the bottom of your post, encourage people to ring your bell. Say, if you like this content, and you want to see more of it, then ring my bell. So
yeah, but I think the thing about ringing my bell is not everybody knows how to do it, Jonathan. I've had to put out a post a few times with like a screenshot of where you go.
where the bell is.
Yeah, so will I show people where the bell is? That might be a useful thing to show people, actually. I'll show people where the bell is. So hold on, I'll have to move you guys out of the way. So this is where you ring people's bells. I'll show you. Okay, so I will go on to my file. Sorry, I have to move you guys out of the way. So if I clicked on, oh, where? It's not there.
Oh, that's so funny.
That's so fun. This is what LinkedIn does sometimes. The bell was usually here somewhere. It's one of my main posts here. Look, we'll play it. This is where it should be.
I saw it a minute ago when you scrolled down a bit. It was on the left-hand side and it said ring my bell.
Hold on. So if I go back.
There. Oh, wait.
That was the post that I was showing you with the video
Right.
of
It
it.
was called
There
Ring My
should,
Bell.
it's called Ring My Bell because there
Oh,
Yeah, but
should be a
usually it's on
bell.
a bell right on the upper right.
Yeah, but I'll show you the video. So this is what LinkedIn does sometimes, guys. Right, hold on. It's showing you here. Can you see that?
Yeah, there's a
That's
bell.
where the
Yes.
bell. That's where the bell should be.
Huh. So
Yes.
strange.
But it's maybe it's because I'm on my own profile. Right. Give me one of you guys. I'll go and look
No,
one of you guys up.
I tried the same thing. It's not, I'm not seeing it. I
You're
was
not
on your
seeing
profile
it.
and I don't see the bell. I've seen it before, but I don't see it right
There
now.
it is. Look, I've just gone on to Jan Adams there. Look. There.
Yeah.
That's her bell.
Yeah, that's where it always is. Top right.
So I think it was because I was on my own profile. So that's it there. If you want to ring somebody's bell, that's it there.
Right. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you. Any other questions? Anything? We recorded this. I'll stop the recording and it will be on the member portal. Okay. Athole, thank you really so much. Thank you for taking this
No
time. This
worries.
was really fantastic. Really lots of great content. Really wonderful.
Okay. glad. Hopefully it'll help somebody in here. And if you ever want to chat to me about any of this sort of stuff, I absolutely love this. It's really important. So feel free to contact me, and we can have a one-to-one or whatever afterwards.
Right. Was I
Thank
right
you
about
so
her?
much.
Talk about being yourself.
She was great.
Thanks so
Good
much.
You're
job.
great.
Thank you, Ethel.
Thank you.
Okay.
And
Bye, everybody.
you didn't use any weird Scottish words. We understood everything.
No. Yeah, I was worried about that I might say some stuff that you didn't I had to check with Jonathan that you would understand what tire kicker was, because one of my colleagues today was like, they're American, will they know what a tire kicker is? I'm like, I think they will.
And you didn't say 10 times that we're all lovely.
Oh, well, but you are. But Jonathan keeps telling me that, like, Athol, you've got a skewed view of what American people are like, because not everybody's as awesome as me.
We're not as lovely as only Collaberex members
Yeah.
and people that go to the workshops are lovely. The rest of everyone else, hit or miss. Anyway, thank you, everyone. Thank you so much. Okay.
Thanks.
Thanks, Jonathan.
Okay,
Okay,
Athol,
thank
you
you,
want to stay
guys.
on for a second? Okay.
Mhm.
I'm going to stop the recording.